So I was talking about how a lot of the people on Twitter are just kind of a pain in the ass, and I don't want it to come off as if I was being like totally negative about them, because I'm not. That really isn't my position on there on them. So I really hope I can explain this without making things worse. I'm not always so good at explaining myself on difficult topics, because I know what's in my head and I think I'm explaining it, but then like I have to look back on it like months later where I forget what I was talking about, and that's when I realize that I did not explain myself at all. And I always think that I am explaining myself, because I kind of think that people just get what I'm saying, like they kind of can get inside my head and understand what I'm saying, and people can't do that. So anyways, my position on the Twitter disability warriors, if you will, is one of the things, maybe I should start with the good stuff first, is for all of my complaining about them, I do actually appreciate them, and I appreciate what they do, and I do have a lot of admiration for what they do, because being how do I say it? It's not an easy job. I guess I can say it that way. Is you are fighting for change, and in the process, fighting for change can make you kind of angry and disgruntled and upset, and it's hard to be like that all the time, to have to experience that all the time. And so I don't think it's an easy job, and I refer to it as job, even though but I don't think it's an easy job what they do. But I do appreciate the fact that they do it, because I do think that all of us benefit from it, and I think that the world is a better place because they're out there helping to make it a better place. That being said, I do think it's a difficult thing to pull off, but I think that you can be an advocate and fight for change and fight to open people's eyes and make them think in a different way, and to be sympathetic and empathetic towards you. I think that there's a way to do that without being angry all the time. And granted, I don't know how exactly to pull that off, because I'm just not really an advocate myself. I don't know how to do that. But from time to time, I do see people who advocate for something, and they do it kind of in this, what I call a joyous warrior type way, where they can get angry from time to time, but for the most part, they're a happy person. And most of us would rather listen to a happy person than to an angry person. So if I was new to or not even being new, I hardly follow the autism community on Twitter anymore, because I have a lot of other things going on, and partly I just got burned out on it. But I don't, I'm away from the community for 6, 9, 12 months at a time, and then I come back in, and there's always something new, and it's always like a big deal. Like when I left a year or two ago, when I was kind of active, it was probably a year or two ago. At that time, no, it must have been longer than that, because at that time people were happy to call themselves ASPE. They were kind of shunning the word autism. Yes, this was more than 2 years ago. This was a few years ago. So people were happy to be autistic or ASPE. They weren't really wild about the word autism. But yeah, I can't remember what. But anyway, so time went on, and whoever was it, the person who coined autism, was he was. First, they were accusing him of like being in with the Nazis and something, and so they kind of approved of the guy who coined Asperger's. And now I just went back on the autism community, checked in with them a few weeks ago, and now the word Aspie is bad, and you're not allowed to use the word Aspie because he was a Nazi, and it's just like, so anybody new to the community, or anybody who hasn't been keeping up every week to find out what the latest outrage is, if you are still referring to yourself as an Aspie and you come online and you're like, hi, I'm an Aspie, blah, 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 people will jump all over you and just rip your head off. And it's just like, you can't do it like that. I mean, they don't come in there with intending to do any harm. You just can't rip people's heads off like that. You're not getting anywhere. And now these people, because that's how you started off, now they want nothing to do with you. And now they don't want to be an ally and help you with your cause, and they don't want to listen to what you have to say because you're just some weird jerk that just went off on them. So why should I listen to you? Maybe you're just a internet troll or whatever. People don't really want to listen. They don't want to interact. They don't want to be part of your group, if you will, if your method of communication is always attack. If the only way you know to interact with someone is to attack them, you really need to re-examine the way that you interact with people, because there's a time and a place for everything, and there is a time and a place for attacks, but it's not every day, all day. And that is my problem with the internet community, or at least the vocal internet community on Twitter, is they wear me out. I get so worn out being around them that it's like I don't want to be part of that group. I don't want to admit that I'm autistic because I don't want to be part of that group. Same thing as I went vegan like a year ago, and same thing as, the worst thing about being vegan is the vegans. I mean, they're a massive pain in the ass. They're just not fun to be around. So a lot of the same things I see in the autism community is they're not fun to be around. I don't really like being part of them, and that's part of what kept me from, every time I would start building Autistic Wiki, I would get sidelined watching some fight on Twitter, and then I thought, I don't want to dedicate my life to this. Like, if I build this community, it's going to take up a huge part of my day every day, just maintaining it and growing it and making it useful and productive. And if I can't stand to be around these people, if I have to constantly take breaks from them on Twitter for 6 months at a time, how am I going to devote my life, not my life, but how am I going to devote a huge chunk of my day to building this application or this community that's trying to help us? So that's kind of like always pushing me away too, is just, it's a part of me doesn't want to put my name to it. I mean, I build this community, and then I'm going to watch all these people come in and just kind of destroy it and have that be associated with me because I built it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people in the autistic community just really need to re-examine how they communicate with other people. And I know, the whole empathy thing is, whether we do have empathy or whether we don't, I don't think it matters, is because you can learn to make an effort to put yourself in others' shoes, whether it comes naturally for you or not. You can learn how to. So I was saying, I just had to sneeze. So I think that a lot of us, when we're talking to other people, we need to stop and put ourselves in their shoes. If you're somebody who hasn't been active in this community for 6 months, then you're not going to know that this word is bad now and this word is bad, and now we use this word to describe ourselves. The majority of the world's population don't know that you guys had this conversation 6 months ago. I mean, it's just, you don't have the reach that you think you do. So the entire rest of the world doesn't know that this is what you decided. And that's actually another issue that I have, is this little clique on Twitter that seems to try to make all the rules for autism. They speak on behalf of, autistics don't like being the whole person first versus whatever the other word is, autistic versus person with autism. Is they'll say autistics don't like person with autism. Well, I mean, I personally use the word autistic, but if I'm writing and it just, or even speaking, and just the phrase person with autism flows better or makes more sense in context, I'll use it, and I'm not offended by it. And I'm not truly offended if somebody said, do you have autism, as opposed to, are you autistic? That's not going to offend me. So you guys are out there. One of our big arguments or problems with that community, that one organization, is that they claim to speak for autistics and they're not autistic. They're, a grandmother of an autistic or whatever. But you guys are doing the same thing, because not one of you ever came to my house, knocked on the door, and said, hey, Tammy, we're taking a poll because we're going to let people know how autistics like to be referred to. So what is your preference, autistic or a person with autism? Not one of you ever asked me about that. Not one of you ever asked me about any of the other things that you're always declaring, this is what autistics think. I remember that you guys had an issue with the TV show or cable show Atypical, because it wasn't a good representation of autism. Well, I like the show, and I think it is a good representation of autism, because I see a lot of myself in the character. Even though it's a boy and I'm a girl, I see a lot of myself. To me, he does look autistic, and I don't care that he's not a perfect representation of what a person could be. And he has some quirks that are really annoying and that are just frustrating, and that are like, oh man, come on, a grown man would have figured that out by now. Like, the way he interacts with his girlfriend, for example. But it doesn't bother me to the point where I think that it's a bad representation of autism. I don't think that at all. And not only that, it's not a documentary. It's a TV show. It's fiction. It's not supposed to be. See, the thing is, you guys got to accept that not all representations of us have to be good. You don't have to show everything that could possibly be good about autism and then hide away everything that could possibly be bad. That's how we get people who are walking around saying autism is a superpower instead of a disability. No, it fucking isn't. Because in order to get a diagnosis, your symptoms have to be sufficiently disabling that they affect your everyday life. And when I got assessed, I was not assessed as a superhero. I was assessed as having a disability called autism that affects my day-to-day activities. So you can't be shunning or trying to hide away all the bad stuff about autism. That's not realistic. I know it's not fun to highlight those things or to talk about them or to admit that they exist, but they are there. And if you're going to try to hide them and pretend that this is not a part of our reality, then when you're trying to make people accept us, you're trying to make them accept a fake version of us. And that's not helpful either. I mean, in the same way that, I love my family for all of their flaws and for all of the bad stuff about them, I still love them from afar, granted, because I have a hard time being too close to them, but I love them from afar, even though they've got a lot of things wrong with them and a lot of stuff that I really think they should be in therapy for. Nonetheless, I accept them and I love them. And I want people to accept and love me for the way I am, even though I'm not perfect. I'm very annoying sometimes. I have some bad quirks that just make me a huge pain in the ass to be around sometimes. But I also have a huge heart, and I really care about people, and I do everything I can to help people that I care about. And I want people to accept me the way I am, not for some, Disney idealized version of what I could be. Because we could all be something better, but we're not. We are what we are. We're human beings, and we're all broken. I know people don't like admitting that you're broken, but we all are. I mean, that's just part of the human condition, is is learning to navigate this broken existence and trying to be a good person in spite of it. It's not a big deal. It's okay, because we're all in the same boat. We all have something that we're dealing with. So it's okay to admit that we have things about us. We have our dark side, the shadow side, however you want to word it. All of us have it, all of us. And we all have things that make us difficult, and we shouldn't feel like we have to hide that away in order to be accepted. Because if you were counseling your sister or your best friend, and they were like, oh my, and they met this new guy and they were so in love, and she just felt like he was perfect, but she was scared he was going to see her flaws, and you would say, no, he will love you no matter what. Well, we need to turn that same idea back on ourselves. Is people should love us for all of our flaws and for all of our negative, if you want to say negative, personality traits. I mean, people should accept us, and we should accept us. I think there's a huge part of our community that cannot accept the fact that when you're an autistic person, there are things about you that other people find very difficult to deal with. It's just a fact. I mean, if you didn't have those things, you probably wouldn't have gotten diagnosed, because again, your symptoms have to be sufficiently disabling to the point where it affects your day-to-day life. So if the autism was not affecting you, then you probably don't have it strong enough to be qualified as autistic. So I think that we just need to accept the fact that there are things about autistics that are annoying to normal people. And yeah, I'm going to call them normal people, because that's, because what's normal is essentially being viewed by whoever the majority is, and they are the majority, so they get to choose what is normal. And I'm not. I am not normal according to their view. Now, I'm normal to me, and as far as I'm concerned, they're the freaks, but there's more of them than there are me, so I don't get to make the rules. Maybe someday there will be, and then I'll put it in writing that they're a bunch of freaks, but for now I'm the freak. It is what it is. It's fine. I think I kind of went off on a tangent again. I get going on these things and then I can't remember what I was talking about, and now I don't know if I made my point or not, but I sure hope I did, because if I didn't, then I have to do this all over again. Okay, I hope not. All right, so anyways, I don't know. Oh, my point was that even though I was kind of ragging on the autism community on Twitter, I don't hate them, and I do appreciate them. That was my original point of the video. I don't know if I successfully got that idea across. My fear is that I didn't. So in spite of what I tried to say, let me just reiterate, I do appreciate what you guys do. You guys go through a lot, and you do make some changes, and you do you do a lot of good things. I think it would be helpful to all of us, and for your own just happiness, if we could learn to just kind of be a little bit more gentler with each other and with ourselves, because we're not all coming from the same point of reference, and that's where a lot of anger is coming from, and it's misplaced, because if we're not coming from the same point of reference, you can't expect two people to be on the same page, Or what if somebody just generally has a different opinion of you? Does that mean that they're wrong? Even what if they're still autistic and they have a different opinion of you? Why do you get to say they're wrong and they don't get to be right? Why do you get to make the decision? So I guess I'm hoping that we can just be a little bit more gentler and kindler, whatever, nicer to each other. I hope that's okay. All right. Okay, well, I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching through this again. I know I kind of go on rambling waves, and that's not how you're supposed to do videos, but I mean, that's who I am, and I don't know how else to do it. Even though I write notes and I go through it in my head and I try to talk my way through it, but then every take I get just goes off on a wild tangent, and I can't control it. What can you do? I have a condition. Have a good day.